They never knew the truth. They only knew the life I let them live. My name is Evelyn Parker. I am 79 years old, and for decades, I carried a secret so heavy it kept me awake at night more times than I can count. I spent most of my life working as a nurse in the neonatal unit at St. Joseph's Hospital in Chicago. For over 30 years, I helped newborns take their first breaths, comforted exhausted mothers, and sometimes saved lives in ways that paperwork could never record. But one night decades ago, I did something no hospital report could ever explain, something I could never tell anyone until now. It was a stormy November evening. Rain lashed against the hospital windows. The neonatal ward was quiet, lit only by the soft glow of incubators. A young mother, barely 19, was recovering from childbirth. She had a newborn daughter, fragile and tiny, who should have had a future full of love. But the father was abusive, known for violence, controlling behavior, and intimidation. I had seen him with the mother. He was dangerous. That night, as I walked past the bassinets, I noticed another baby born the same night crying loudly. The mother was asleep, exhausted. A thought crossed my mind, terrible and impossible. What if I had only seconds to decide. My heart pounded. My hands shook. I whispered a prayer. And then I did it. I switched the babies. One newborn went into the arms of a safe family, unaware of the life she was being spared. The other returned to her biological parents, unaware of the protection I had attempted. No one knew. No one ever asked. And I kept my secret close locked in my heart. Years passed. The girl I had saved grew up in a loving home with laughter, stability, and warmth. She excelled in school. She had friends. She had hope. She never suspected the truth of her origins. Meanwhile, the other child lived a life marked by difficulty, shadows, and struggle, the consequences of choices made long before she could understand them. I aged quietly, retired, my health declined. My family didn't know the weight I carried. And then 30 years later, everything changed. A medical emergency required DNA testing for insurance purposes. The results did not match the records. Suddenly, a lifetime of lies began to unravel. The two families I had tried to protect and separate were thrown into chaos. Parents questioned everything. Children questioned their identity. Friendships and relationships strained under the weight of truth. I sat in my small apartment, hands trembling over a letter that had been delivered to me. The words were clear. Your secret has been discovered. I felt my chest tighten. My knees weakened. All those years of moral struggle, sleepless nights, and careful avoidance had led to this moment. The girl I had saved, now a young woman in her 30s, would soon learn that her entire life was built on a lie. I tried to prepare myself. I tried to imagine her face when she found out. I tried to imagine the heartbreak of her parents. I tried to imagine my own regret. But nothing could fully capture the shock, the betrayal, the moral complexity of what had happened decades ago in a single, decisive act of protection. And now I must face the consequences. My name is Evelyn Parker. I am 79 years old, and for decades I carried a secret that would soon shatter to families. The day the truth came out, the hospital called the families in separately. My hands trembled as I prepared to meet them. I had rehearsed what to say for years, but rehearsals cannot capture the weight of 30 years of lies. The girl I had saved, Samantha Reed, had grown into a vibrant, confident woman. She had a loving adoptive family, friends who adored her, and a promising career in pediatric nursing, a life I had tried to protect. When she first heard the news, she froze. The words seemed impossible. You were not born to the parents who raised you. Your biological parents are different. Samantha's adoptive mother burst into tears. How could this happen? She asked, clutching her chest. We raised her, loved her, and now. Her father stood silently, gripping the arms of his chair, his face pale, jaw tight. The betrayal felt like a physical blow. Meanwhile, in another room, the biological parents of Samantha's twin, Jennifer, Matthews faced their own reality. Their daughter had lived under their care, unaware of the life that could have been. Confusion, anger, and heartbreak mixed into a storm of emotion. I was escorted to a neutral room. When Samantha saw me, her gaze pierced through me. "You did this," she whispered. "You switched me." I nodded slowly. "Yes, I saved you. I protected you from a life of harm." Her face twisted in shock and disbelief. "You lied to me my whole life. You're my grandmother, but you weren't supposed to interfere." I didn't know what else to do, I said softly. I had seconds to choose, one life or another. I chose to protect. Samantha's adoptive parents held her tightly. "Evelyn," her mother said, trembling, "we trusted you. We loved her as our own." "I know," I whispered. "And I never wanted to hurt you. I only wanted her safe." The biological parents were less forgiving. "How dare you," her father said through clenched teeth. "Do you realize what you've done? We lost 30 years of our daughter." "I understand your anger," I said calmly. "But consider what could have happened if I hadn't acted. She would have suffered physically, emotionally, and worse." The room became tense, every word heavy with accusation and regret. I felt my own chest tighten under the weight of moral conflict. Samantha pulled back from her parents. "Everything I knew was a lie," she said softly. "My life, my memories, who I am, all of it." I reached for her hand. "Your life was real, Samantha. Your memories are yours. Your love is yours. I only intervened to protect you from harm." She shook her head. "But why would you decide for me?" "Because no one else could. Because I couldn't stand by and watch another child be hurt," I replied. Hours turned into days. Counseling sessions, family meetings, and endless conversations followed. Samantha alternated between anger, sadness, and gratitude. The biological parents faced the reality of losing 30 years of parenthood. I sat quietly observing. I felt guilt, relief, and sorrow all at once. My actions saved a life but shattered others. Then came the confrontation I feared most. With the biological daughter raised by her original parents, Jennifer Matthews. Jennifer looked at Samantha with a mixture of envy, confusion, and longing. "You got the better life," she whispered bitterly. "I got the one you left me in." Samantha shook her head. "It's not about better or worse. It's about survival." I swallowed hard. "Yes," I said. "And survival sometimes requires choices no one else can understand." In private, Samantha finally turned to me. "Grandma," she said, tears in her eyes, "I don't know if I can ever forgive you." "You don't have to," I whispered. "I only ask that you understand why." She nodded slowly, processing decades of deception and protection all at once. Over time, the families tried to reconcile. Therapy sessions, counseling, and mediated conversations took place. It was messy, raw, and painful, but slowly some understanding emerged. Samantha learned that her life, though built on a lie, had been safe, loving, and hers to live. Jennifer began to understand that her struggles weren't punishment from fate but a consequence of decisions made to protect another child. And I remained in the background, watching, listening, hoping that in the chaos some healing would take place. Because the truth is simple. Protection can hurt, lies can save, and moral dilemmas rarely have clean resolution. My name is Evelyn Parker. I am 79 years old. And after decades of carrying a secret, it was time to face the consequences. Samantha sat across from me in the counseling room. Her eyes were full of questions, grief, and disbelief. "Grandmammy's entire life was a lie," she whispered. "I don't know who I am anymore." I nodded slowly. "I understand. Your life, your memories, all real. But I chose to protect you. You would have been in danger otherwise." She looked down, struggling to process 30 years of hidden truth. Meanwhile, Jennifer Matthews, the other child, faced her own crisis. "I feel like my life was stolen," she admitted bitterly. "My parents, my family, and yet my sister had the life I never got." Samantha reached out and took her hand. "It's not about better or worse. We were both surviving," she said softly. Over the next few weeks, therapy sessions and mediated conversations helped both families process their emotions. Anger, betrayal, grief, and eventually understanding began to emerge. Samantha had moments of rage, questioning every memory. "Did you lie to me every single day?" she asked. "No," I replied. "You were loved, you were safe, you were happy. I only intervened to protect you from harm you couldn't see." She exhaled slowly, tears running down her cheeks. Jennifer Matthews slowly began to accept her life. "You know it's still hard," she said, "but I guess maybe I understand why. Sometimes protecting one means hurting another," I said quietly. "It doesn't make it easy, but it was necessary." Samantha hugged me one evening. "Grandma, I don't know if I can forgive you yet," she said, "but I understand why you did it. That's all I ask," I replied. Months later, both families began rebuilding their lives. Communication improved. Boundaries were established. Love, trust, and understanding slowly returned. As for me, I realized the moral truth I had lived with for decades. Choices made to protect can bring unintended consequences. Silence sometimes preserves life. Truth can heal even if it shocks at first. I sat quietly in my living room one evening, looking at the photos of Samantha and Jennifer. Both girls, though connected by a secret, were thriving in their own ways. I smiled softly. I had carried a heavy burden, and now I could finally let go. YouTube style ending. If Evelyn's story touched your heart, remember this. Sometimes protecting someone means making impossible choices. Truth can shock, but it can also heal. Moral dilemmas aren't easy, but love guides the hardest decisions. Like this video if you believe in courage and protection. Subscribe for more real-life emotional stories. Turn on the bell so you never miss stories that change your perspective. Thank you for watching. Your choices matter. Your love matters.